Hey everyone, I had the honor of interviewing someone I know pretty well, Andrew Taylor. The interview was pretty fun and he gave me some really good insights on what it's like to be an early career head coach. I will let you guys be the judge on whether those insights were really good or, well, if this interview was interesting at all. But if you do enjoy this interview, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, a little backstory, he is the head coach of the historic Val College in the Philadelphia, PA area. He had a national qualifier this season and he will be entering his third season. So please support and enjoy the content. I'm very grateful Andrew Taylor could join me on the show. Also, if you like the shirt I'm wearing during the video, be sure to click the link below and buy yourself a TrueTan Wrestling shirt. Like I said, it's in the link below. Alrighty, let's roll the clip. How's everything going?
Good, man. It's good. We're rounding out this year's recruiting class and finishing up, some of the postseason stuff. And guys are going to finals soon, so obviously they're getting down to the nitty gritty. And it's the year's coming to an end, so we're excited for obviously the summer and then going into next year and see how everything goes.
But before I guess we talk too much Del Val, I kind of want to dive into your career a little bit. This is something I don't know too much about. Just kind of tell me how you were at high school wrestling in high school, I guess, as a wrestler in high school. Just what high school you went to and just some of your accolades there and your time.
Yeah, I'm from Central Ohio in Worthington Kilbourne High School. My best accolades was I won over 110 matches and was a state qualifier. I went 1-2. I was a blood round guy my last year. But I think the great thing about Central Ohio right now is how much it's grown in the past 10 years. They have 4 or 5 schools now that are really competing with the Northeast. And for me being from Central Ohio, we used to just get decimated by them. They were just so much better in all levels. Their club wrestling was better. Their youth programs were better. Now we've really kind of taken that big step. But my high school experience was, kind of run of the mill. I did about everything that I worked for. I was just a big open room mat rack guy and a lot of stuff like that. But high school wrestling wise, it was a fun experience. And then went off to BW in college in 2010 and had an even better experience.
For sure. What made you pick BW? Did you have a couple schools you were looking at or anything like that?
Yeah, I was looking at Limestone down in South Carolina. I was looking at Heidelberg a little bit. I was looking at obviously BW, and then for me, I really wanted to be a teacher. I thought that it was going to be that next path where I could be an elementary school teacher, then get in coaching and really live the lifestyle that I wanted to live. And BW had bar none the best education program that I'd seen. Just with their experiences, with the overall the professors that they had, and just a lot of the communications that I had when I went up on the visit. I knew that my education would have to come first, and that's ideally why I chose BW. And it was a beautiful campus. I love the community. Bree is awesome. I mean, it's a great home.
Yeah, for real. I can attest to that being a soon to be 2-time alumni, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But back to Columbus. So you're from Columbus, but I know you're a Pittsburgh fan. Where did that come from?
So my dad was a Whippeal wrestler. He's from Mount Lebanon.
Oh, really? They got some
Yep.
studs right now.
Oh yeah. My uncle George coached Mount Lebanon for a long time. He coached the great Kurt Angle when he won his state title before he went off to Clarion. My dad wrestled there. My uncle wrestled there. My grandparents taught at Mount Lebanon High. My grandfather was a chemistry teacher, so I had a lot of Pittsburgh ties. I went to Pennsylvania since I was born. So I mean, it was just kind of like a second home for me. And I think that's what made the transition out to PA so easy. Is I love it here. And my dad would have been really upset if I would have liked the Bengals or the Browns. So when I was born, I was wearing Steelers, Steelers onesie and Penguin stuff, and so Pittsburgh was just always kind of my sports town.
That's cool. That's really cool. Does teaching run in the family? You said your dad was a teacher and a couple other people.
Yeah, my grandparents were teachers, so my grandfather taught chemistry. My grandmother taught, I think, 6th grade for a little bit. My oldest sister teaches out in Delaware. She taught in North Carolina, down near UNC Pembroke. That's where she got her master's degree. Oddly enough, where a coach was.
Yeah.
And then I taught for 5 or 6 years in Lorain, Ohio, while I was an assistant coach for BW. So it kind of runs in the family. I mean, it's a great profession. It's great for people that want to give back and are dedicated to that craft.
For sure. Yeah. Awesome. And then we talked a little bit about you picking BW, you being a coach now. I'm really curious for people who are trying to get into coaching. What was recruiting like when you were getting looked at by different schools compared to when you're going now? Because I know there's so many ways to watch film. I mean, you can watch people like me or Fanco that talk about these recruits. Like, how has that just totally changed the game from, I guess, 2010 to 12 years ago?
Yeah, it's so different because I mean, when I was competing, the only film you really had were, I mean, Flow had just started. Flow was a free account then. You could get on and do whatever. YouTube was really just starting up. There wasn't all those outlets and social media things that we had now. I think the iPhone just first came out in like '06 or '07. So for me, it was a lot of, I was kind of my own recruit. I was emailing different coaches, telling them that, I wanted to understand what the wrestling program was about. And they would come and watch me wrestle, or they would get a hold of me via email and things like that. So, a little bit of the Stone Age stuff. But now it's crazy. I mean, I can see everybody's records on different platforms. Like I know Ohio has Palms page, PA's got the PA Power Wrestling, or the PA Wrestling format that's pretty much got everybody's records since they were PJWs. And then everything's pretty much streamed, which is really nice. You have the Track Wrestling outlet, which is incredible. You have Rockfin now, so all these matches, whether it's summer, spring, freestyle, folk style, Fargo, all these things are outletted for coaches, and it makes it really competitive because now just about everybody's names are on the map. And there's less diamonds in the rough because I mean, just there's so many kids getting looked at. Whereas back when I was getting recruited, I think it was a little bit harder for us just because unless you were a state placer, you saw them in the bracket, you just didn't get looked at as much. So it's and I think too what the great thing is you, as a coach, you want to be at so many tournaments every weekend. You want to see all these guys. Now you can pick a tournament to go to, but still see the videos and the results and talk to the recruits. Say, hey, this is some great stuff. You had a great battle in that match, and I think that really helps just the recruiting process. Helps a lot of these kids too.
So in your collegiate career, I know, correct me if you're wrong, first 2 years you were with a different coach, and then Coach Gibbs came in for your last 2 years, correct?
No, so first year I was with Coach Fleming, and then in that spring, that's when they transitioned to make it a full-time gig. And Coach Gibbs then took over a hodgepodge squad of 6 or 7 guys. And it was certainly a challenge for him. And then I had him for the next 3 years, and so that was definitely an experience.
Yeah, what was that like, having such a historic coach your first year and then switching to, I mean, a guy you didn't even know? I mean, we know him too well now.
Yeah,
but how was that?
It was a mixed emotions when it started because I had gotten really comfortable with the assistant coaches. Obviously, Coach Fleming was a great figurehead. He's a great human being. He was a great wrestling coach. He's a Hall of Famer now. And so in my high school experience, I had 3 coaches in 4 years. So then when that happened in college, I was like, man, this is crazy. Do I transfer? What do I do? Like,
yeah,
this is not the experience that I wanted. And then Coach Gibbs came in, and he called me pretty regularly throughout the summer just on thoughts, and he really made me feel like this was going to be a really good experience. And then we got in. We had a really small squad, and it was the most simplest term. It was really hard, not fun, because it was a guy that actually held you accountable. It was a guy that he wanted to come in and show you what tough wrestling was all about. I thought I was a hard worker. I was not. I thought I was committed. I was not. And so it really kind of opened my eyes to what the sport of wrestling really was. And fortunately, I was able to stick with it. I know in my head I quit probably 100 times. Even in the spring, I told Coach I was going to go across, and he said fine. And then and then he just gave me the lifting program, and I kept going. And I just kept lifting, and then he brought in an incredible class, size like 26 guys, and those guys really kind of rejuvenated my career, and that was an unbelievable experience from there.
But I bet it was awesome, going from 6 guys and then just, even though they were freshmen, having a full squad essentially. I know my high school career and several other of my teammates, that helped them get through college, just that it wasn't just 5 kids on a team anymore. It was 30 guys that wanted to be there.
Yeah, it was so different. I mean, going from, and I made it hard on myself with weight cutting because I was stupid about it. I was fluctuating, that yo-yo process. But being the only guy in the weight room running off weight or before a match or something gets exhausting. You don't have anybody look to your left or right. And then you fast forward a year later, you got Garrett Chase, David Shapiro, Jesse Gunter, all these guys, these hammers, just freaking Ben LeBron, going and running with you. They're in at 6 a.m. They're doing all the right things, and they came and took the program over by storm. I was just, I was a lucky byproduct of what they were doing and the culture that they built. So it was exciting for me to have these young guys really kind of take the program by storm and do exactly what Coach Gibbs probably recruited them to do and pitched for them. And you look at that class, you look at our top 10 wins all time. I mean, Garrett and Jesse and Dave are freaking, in that top 6, top 7. It wasn't until Stan that Jesse and Garrett got taken over. So in that class, they have, arguably 3 of some of the best wrestlers in BW history.
Yeah, it was an amazing class and really awesome. Yeah, just a huge culture shock. Sometimes you need the culture shock, even though if you don't like it, but definitely catapulted you just through research of your career and then looking just from stories I heard. You definitely got better and better as the years went on, and then you were a national qualifier your last year. But I'm really intrigued with just what was your thought process when you were going, you were a 41 most of your career, and then you dropped to 33. Whether that was the reason or not, you were a national qualifier near here nor there. You definitely got better, which is a huge reason also. But what was it like dropping after a whole college career of not being that weight class?
Yeah, I mean, my first year I was at 33, and I thought I was at 25, and I probably should have been, but the Buzzies subs and the milkshakes are pretty good at Del Val, so I gained a little bit of that freshman weight. And then my sophomore year, I just really did not do things the right way. So my junior year went up to 141. We had a full team, so I wasn't needed at 133. That was the year that was really tough because we had our postseason taken away. And so I just said, man, I'm just gonna wrestle my weight, and I made that harder than it should have been too. But going back down to 133, I knew if I really wanted to commit to my best wrestling, if I really wanted to be where I was going to be most successful, I had to be a 133 pounder. I just wasn't strong enough, wasn't big enough, and I knew if I went down to 133, it would force me to live the best lifestyle. It would force me to come in 2 to 3 times in the morning. It would force me to eat clean. It would force me to go to bed early. It would force me to get on top of my academics, make sure that I'm doing the little things the right way for my student teaching experience. So I just knew that was going to be the best thing for my career and just my future. And it worked out. And like the first couple of weeks were really tough. Coach Gibbs put a great system into place. Whenever I needed extra workouts, he would be the first guy to say, let's roll. And I remember like it was yesterday, it was winter break, and we had to leave at that +3. And it was my first time getting down to in the 30s. And I was on the treadmill. I just couldn't do it. And everybody else was leaving. Coach had his regular street clothes on and said, you just want to roll? And so he just got me in the room, went for about 2 hours, just play wrestling, and got all the weight off me. And, it really helped. And I felt like he was in it with me. So then when I got down to 33, it felt really good. It felt natural. It felt like it was the best that I had done it. And then the results kind of just take care of themselves from there.
Yeah, I bet. And then when you were bought in, I'm sure it just got easier as the days goes on. I'm sure every wrestler can say that does it the right way, at least.
Yeah, the confidence level was super high. When you're doing it the right way, and you're training the right way, and you're fixing things, and you're not worried about wins and losses. And that was the big thing. Is when I went down, I was so concerned about winning and losing. And I remember Heidelberg dual. I got pinned by a backup who turned out to be an All-American the next year. Coach was like, stop thinking about winning and losing. Just go out and just continue to work on your craft, continue to get better. And once that goes out the window, you think about all the training, you think about all the little pieces of the process that you go through, and then the rest is easy.
So then you transitioned into coaching. You were assistant coach at BW for a while, and then you land yourself as the head coach at Delaware Valley. So I don't want to like just a single coach, the only guy there. I'm just knowing from stories of other coaches that they're the only coach there. What was that recruiting like? It had to have been just absolutely crazy with no help at all.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a grind, but the crazy thing is, fortunately, COVID kind of gave me an opportunity to only focus on recruiting. Mm-hmm. We didn't have that front half of the season. We didn't have any practices really. We were training 3 times a week. So I was able to accumulate through that time like over 80 visits in that year, which really helped. And that was the numbers game. How many calls can I make a week? How many guys can I get on campus? How many applications can I push? And so we were really fortunate just to have that balance of not having to go to wrestling every day or not having to do your 2-hour practice every day, not compete on the weekends, and I could really focus on the high school kids that I needed to come make an impact here. We were fortunate to bring in a class of 22 that we really liked, and those guys are now the foundation of this program, just like that first recruiting class for Coach Gibbs was for BW. So it was definitely tough. It was trying. There was a lot of doubt in my mind in January when we only had 1 or 2 commits, and I told myself I needed 20. And then March started coming around, and guys started buying into the juice, and it was better and better. But it was kind of an all-out sprint for about 6 months.
It's awesome to hear. Well, how was the learning curve like going from assistant coach, just sort of wrestling with the guys, helping out where you can with a full-time job, to fully committed to head coach, and now you're the head coach with a lot of other responsibilities?
Yeah, it was funny. When I got the job, I first thing I did was I called Coach Gibbs. I'm like, I don't even know how to make a weigh-in sheet. Like, I don't even know if I'm ready for this. And so, thinking about some of those background items, you feel a little bit overwhelmed, but then you just get in the office and you start plugging away and you start making this thing your life. It's a lot of fun to learn, and you pick up things a little bit easier. I think the number one thing was just I felt so prepared because, in my opinion, I learned from the best wrestling coach in the country in Division III. He taught me so much, and Coach Gibbs just portrayed how to act in the workplace and how to go and get after it every day. And it was really beneficial for me to recruit the way I did, for me to help these guys train the way they do, and really kind of put the values in our program that we could. So as far as the learning curve for that, a lot of it came naturally. There's still a lot that I'm learning. There's still a lot that I'm learning about how to coach athletes, because there's a different relationship from being the head coach with guys than being the assistant coach with guys. There's a lot different of an attitude. There's a lot different of just that level of, he said it, sometimes it's lonely at the top, and you have to be a stickler on some things. You have to set the tone, and the assistants can have a different relationship with the guys. So that was probably the biggest learning curve that I had to go through.
For sure. Yeah. I can only imagine. The one of the key things I wanted to hear your opinion on was just that learning curve, because I'm sure there's a lot of great assistant coaches, or there's volunteer assistant coaches from D1 down to NAIA or A division that just don't realize all the back end stuff that goes into being a head coach or a full on assistant coach. So thank you for answering those questions for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then so you get into your first season, and you primarily knew probably Ohio college schedules. So what is it like being in Ohio, where there's a lot of schools around? Don't get me wrong, but in those PA conferences, especially the MAC, there's schools right down the block for D3 wrestling nights. So what was that like, having just like huge wrestling duels just essentially right down the street?
It's great. Like, the town, it's a wrestling area. One right now, District 11 is 45 minutes north. You got District 4 up there. Eastern PA is a wrestling area, and it's awesome to be a part of. Their duels are massive. I think you couldn't go to the duels during the COVID time, but I was watching, I think, Bald Eagle area. They had great announcers doing it. Their mat was one of the craziest mats I'd ever seen. Like, you could tell that this was a wrestling school. You had Central Mountain or Chestnut Ridge. Some of these big time schools, Council Rock in my area, both north and south, like they exude wrestling, and they pack the house. It's crazy, because you think about Ohio and you think how big Graham and Ed's duels get, or you just have these select schools that get these big crowds. But even in Jersey, in this area in PA, it's like every duel, people just show up, people in the community, and it's always a packed house. And the wrestling knowledge in this area is crazy. The amount of club wrestling teams that they have is just it's continuing to overpopulate. It's awesome. So being in that wrestling environment is pretty unique, just because there's so many people that love it.
Oh yeah, definitely the districts you mentioned. There's some heated rivalries that you could go back generations, and they're still talking about certain duels. So it's only amplified. And then throughout your first season at Del Valle, you got your first national qualifier. What was that experience like? What were some of the emotions just training throughout the year with that individual?
It was great. Yusuf is he's everything that you want your program to be about. He was last 3 semesters, he was a 4.0 kid. And he's got a scholarship award. He just won the MAC Winter academic athlete for wrestling. So there's only one MAC wrestler that gets that. He's just an incredible human being. He really had fun with the sport. He had fun leading a lot of these young guys, and then his wrestling was extremely consistent. The reason his wrestling was so consistent is because he was consistently the hardest worker in the room. Other than our heavyweights gave him a run for the money, but I mean, Yusuf worked really hard, and it wasn't without fighting through some adversity. He went through a knee injury after his second tournament. He went through shoulder separation at the MAC tournament. So he really had some adversity he had to fight through. But and during the regional tournament, I think he had bronchitis. But he's fighting through a lot of these different things that are going on. But boy, did he come in with a smile every day. He was a lunch pail guy. He liked getting the work in. And he was a guy that probably was, consistently weighing at 185. He was a big 74 pounder, so he wasn't one of those guys that was just naturally at that weight. He was pretty big for it. And for us to watch him grow and watch him go from being a fifth guy at heavyweight at the region to then being 174, being in the finals, was pretty awesome. It was great to have my hand in that, but it was really a testament to how hard he worked and his trust in myself and Coach Rush. But it was nice to get the monkey off the back a little bit and know that we were going to go out to Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm sure that experience was amazing too. But man, he had bronchitis during that regional. I didn't see any of the matches, but I saw results. I never would have guessed. He kind of smashed his way to the finals, didn't he?
He did. His
I never would have guessed
great.
that.
his second match, he was winning pretty big, and then gets reversed, put on his back for a second, and then gets right off his back, gets a stick, and then the semis, he controlled the entire match, and he wrestled really well, and then he did what he had to do. And in the finals, we just pulled him because we didn't want anything to happen. But you wouldn't tell that he's sick. You wouldn't tell when he's hurt, and he's just a warrior. He keeps that even keel and just that mentality, like he's bulletproof, and that really helped him because when you're going through some of those things, a lot of doubt can creep in your mind. Those pressure moments, he was he was battling for a spot in the national tournament. So I think for him, he just stayed within himself, and he did a really, really nice job.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Giving him the spotlight throughout. So you're at Del Val. It's a historical university. I know even when I was little, I knew about them. I know you're building your own culture there, but does that kind of help a little bit that there's such a history around the university, especially in wrestling?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, from Bob Marshall's era in the late 70s to 2000, when they had a whole Hall of Fame team for 88, 89, where they had 3 national champs and took second in the country. I mean, he built, however many All-Americans. They had, I think he had himself over 40 All-Americans. The school's got 80 All-Americans. So in his time, he produced the most. And then from 2000 to 2009 or so, his protege, Coach Totten, went and took a team, took 4th in the country, had a couple of national duals, 3rd-place teams, and it continued it. And Coach Totten was a national champ for Coach Marshall. So the history that was laid before us was really, really strong, and it's been a really important recruiting tool for us to say this is a wrestling school. We are a wrestling school. Our football team is very, very tough. They're a top 10 team in the country year in, year out, but we have a great football team. Other sports tend to follow, but for the longest time, this has been a strong wrestling school. And for PA, that's really important, especially because, the neighboring towns want to come to a strong college wrestling match. I mean, when I got the job, I would hear from local community members to people that I was recruiting to even just people that I worked with. And back in the 2000s, this was standing room only. Like, they go wrestle live call me. You couldn't even find a seat in the house. And that's something that we can use. That's something that we want to get back to. And I think it's really important because with such a history of success, you owe it to all those alumni to bring it back. You owe it to all those alumni to get that standard of excellence where it needs to be, and then see how much higher you can take it. Because they have a lot of pride in the wrestling program here. They have a lot of pride in what they built, as they should. So it's it's my job to make sure that we get back to where it was, if not better.
Yeah, definitely. I know you had an alumni practice this year. Just talked a little bit about it, but how is the alumni connection? They helping out? I know that's huge from D1 down to D3. You need those donors to just be a little bit successful.
You do, and our donors are great. Our alumni are great. This was the first year we really pushed for that donor club. We created the 11th Aggie Donor Club, and my first year here, we had 2 donors for $150. This year we had 30 donors for just over 5,000. But they did an incredible job. Our alumni practice was a success. We had a national champ come back and Jamal Johnson. We had a couple other guys come back that were really excited to see what was going on with the program. We did the practice outdoors, so it was a lot of fun for just what they were being able to see. They got to see a team size of over 30, which was even better because they hadn't seen that in a little bit. So for just our alumni community, I think that they were really excited to get that outreach again. And so my job is just to continue to bridge the gap and for them to get to know us. I was just on the phone with a guy from 78, James Hobbs. He lives down in Georgia, and he was just telling me about their teams in the 70s. And it was great to hear how much pride they have in this program, and they still follow. It's awesome.
That is really awesome. And then you talked a little bit about the football team, which I know is savages every year. What's like the overall school culture there? Because I know from university to university, some programs don't really care from program to program, and there's some universities that really get behind each other.
Yeah, for us, I mean, I gotta say it's pretty incredible. All of our athletes support each other. We're about 33% athletes here at Del Val. And I was a little bit nervous for our first couple for our 2 home duels, and what kind of crowd we would get. And it was a pretty amazing crowd. From my standpoint, when I competed, it was your parents, a couple of your friends, and it was pretty small, especially in those BW stands that are towering. So when I saw what our guys created and how they got the message out, our home duels were rocking. I got a text from the Kings coach, and it was a great atmosphere. So that made me feel really good. And I think it's a testament to the amount of support we get at our football games. I mean, it is a crowd. It feels like a college game day on a Saturday. We have tailgates starting at 9:30, 10 a.m. We have the 2 different lots for our student section and then the parents and families. So it's a really nice atmosphere. And when you have a competitive football team such as them that are going deep in the playoffs, that are home games in the playoffs, it's exciting. And not only that, like watching some of these men lift some of these things, they just look different. So it's a great standard for us to try to build off of. And then all those football players, man, they go and support the basketball games. They go and support the volleyball games, soccer games. It's a really unique environment to be part of.
Yeah, that's big when you can get other athletes at other sporting events. That goes a long way. So you wrapped up your first season at Del Val. Really successful for a second-year coach. I guess it probably felt like a first-year coach since that first season was very short with COVID. So what are you guys doing? Are you guys preparing for the second season? How's recruiting going? How's training going? Getting ready to blow the first 2 seasons out of the water with the third.
Yeah, we have our best recruiting class to date so far. I think so far we've got 12 or 13 commits. Of those, I think we've got 10 of them or 11 of them that have seen the state mats. 2 of them have seen the podium. Got a Beast of the East place here that's committed. So we have some guys that are talented. We've got a couple more that are looking at us. So we're top 2 in their decision. And it's exciting. It's exciting to really continue to build the quality of this program and to build the depth. And our guys right now are working really hard in their spring. They're dedicating themselves to that lifestyle with their lifting. We're doing our 2 rep maxes this week, which is exciting for them to see how much they grew on their lifting program. And
always a great week.
Oh yeah. To see, how much of a difference lifting makes in their wrestling. I think that's the really big thing is they're going to be a lot stronger. They're going to have a lot more confidence. I know it was so goofy when Ferrari goes and flexes in the camera and says 660-pound deadlift. That's probably because that dude is the most confident man at 197, and he can move 600 pounds at a fast rate.
Easily.
And so I think they're really excited to head into summer, and they're going on a good note, and then we'll come back in the fall and build that camaraderie again and really acclimate this incoming class and have higher standards. I think every year that we come in, we want higher standards. We want higher goals. We want to make sure that we're elevating ourselves as young men in the classroom, in the community, as well as on the wrestling mat.
For sure. Yeah. It sounds like a elite class, and the high standards definitely need it. So I'm excited for you, and anyone who's interested in Del Val, I'm sure they're excited to hear that for sure. I just got 2 more questions, just 2 little fun questions. First one, what was your favorite match to coach so far at Delaware Valley?
My favorite match to coach so far was Chris Richardson against Muhlenberg at senior night. And, it's a close duel. It's back and forth. And Chris decided at 170 pounds, he was going to sacrifice for the team, move up to 184. And he's wrestling this. I mean, if anybody knows Chris, he's kind of that tall, lanky. He muddies up the water a little bit. Guy, not a lot of muscle definition, but he's a great scrambler. Goes up and is wrestling this freaking monster of a dude and ends up giving up a first takedown, but battles. And he's winning the match and then gets a pin at the end and secures the victory for us, which was pretty awesome for him. He battled a ton of injuries and it was fun for us to coach that. It was pretty incredible. The atmosphere was awesome. The place went nuts because it came down to that match. So that was my favorite one to coach this year.
That's awesome. Great story behind it too. Last one, diving more into yours. What was your favorite match ever? It could be from youth for all it could be at any moment in life.
The most rewarding was when I punched my ticket to the national tournament. That was the best. I had lost to the kid the year or that same year in riding time, up a weight at 141 pounds. And then, just the progression and going through to the regional tournament, seeing him for third and fourth, it was kind of poetic justice. And I was able to, I think, beat him like 18-4. And it was just, to me, it showed how far I'd come and how much I trusted Coach Gibbs. And it was a huge weight lifted off my shoulder. And I just, that was my favorite one.
I'll say poetic justice. Well said.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Andrew Taylor, head coach of Del Val, thank you very much for this. Anyone interested in Del Val, I'm sure he'll take emails, take any of those questions you have. Thank you very much for